Tonight, the search is on in Baldwin County to fill vacant law enforcement positions as agencies expand to meet the area's rapid growth.
It's a situation that could soon create a bidding war between departments, as authorities say the pool of applicants has shrunk over the last few years. NBC 15's Corey Pittman joins us now live from the Baldwin County Sheriff's Office.
Corey, that is just one of several agencies in need of help.
Well, Greg Kim, that's right. Baldwin County will be seeking dozens of deputies and correctional officers over the next few years, but they'll be competing with other law enforcement agencies, all trying to keep up with the area's quickly rising population.
From the coast to the countryside, houses are being bought every day and more are being built as Baldwin County continues drawing in new families faster than anywhere in the state.
And they come here primarily because of our public safety,
right.
School system, and the quality of life.
Sheriff Huey Haas-Mack says it's critical now to maintain that level of
That's
safety.
where the JOB are.
Population tends to bring more crime. Tonight, his agency is moving forward with a 5-year plan to try and meet the growing need.
Part of that plan is to be adding somewhere around a half dozen deputy sheriff's positions a year. Currently, we have about 9 open positions for deputy sheriff.
Another goal, Sheriff Mack says, is adding around 12 correctional officers a year leading up to the jail expansion, under construction and scheduled for a 2025 opening. The challenge is other agencies are also searching for help, including Spanish Fort Police and the Daphne Police Department, which seeks to double its police force over the next few years amid a shrinking pool of candidates.
There is fewer experienced people coming into law enforcement,
and
fewer overall applications. I think we're going to see that we're competing for a lot of the same employees.
To be competitive not only in law enforcement but with private companies, Sheriff Mack sees changes coming in the way governmental agencies hire.
There's probably going to have to embrace such thing as incentive pay for certain specialties, perhaps pay for college degrees. Historically, public sector has not always been able to keep up because of our budget situation.
Sheriff Mack says as the growth continues, it's difficult to project where the hiring need will stop. Just for some perspective, the number of staff in the Baldwin County Sheriff's Office has tripled over the last 2 decades. Reporting live in Baldwin County tonight, I'm Corey Pittman, NBC 15.
They don't need a new sheriff, they need new sheriff deputies.
But I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get on the line, and kiss my ass.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele. You found the Backstory Podcast, number 124. We're joined today by Mr. Paul Ripp, my client and partner in crime. How are things in Fairhope, Mr. Ripp?
Very nice on this Easter weekend. We were supposed to have storms and threats of tornadoes, and it was absolutely gorgeous all day. So I don't know what happened with that weather forecast.
And Mr. Russian, is it hot and steamy in Houston as it is here? I mean, spring's over with today. It's like 87 and 90% humidity.
It's a gorgeous day here, 81 degrees. I was working in the yard up until we started the podcast. So it feels nice, but right here in this garage, it doesn't smell nice.
Okay, so is it a shock to anybody else that the Sheriff's Department and County Commission have a 5-year hiring plan that no one's ever heard of?
Well, I gotta speak to this. Most law enforcement agencies that I've experienced, that I've worked with and around and whatnot, they always have a strategic hiring plan because the washout rate for police officers is incredibly high. I mean, you have a higher retention level in municipal jobs in public works and parks and recreation and things than you do in law enforcement. And that's a fact because people get into it, they decide they don't like it, and they get out or they get hurt.
Okay, so that ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a plan to hire. I mean, he just laid it out for us. We're going to hire 6 new deputies every year and a dozen new corrections officers every year until we get this, additional 600 beds ready for
600,
our new tenants.
930
Yeah, 600 new ones, Paul. It's be 930 total.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Fill it up. That's what they're going to plan on doing, is filling up those jails.
And I can promise you, it wouldn't matter if there were 5,000 beds. It'd be full.
Yep.
Or 300.
Monetizing the police.
Sure. So anyhow, that's up. Governor Kay Ivey signs "Don't Say Gay" anti-LGBT bathroom bill into law. I just want y'all to see what's important to our in our state. Now, Range, this one's for you, pal. Were you aware that Mr. Musk had purchased 9% of the Twitter stock and now is offering to buy it at above stock price?
Right.
Yeah.
Substantially above.
Yeah.
Is he just manipulating the stock, or is he actually serious?
No, he's exercising being a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's absolutely right. He's doing, billionaires doing billionaire stuff. He's actually not trying to manipulate the stock price. He's trying to manipulate Twitter. And I don't want to get into the whole ideological problems and issues that he had with Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, and the way that the platform should be. But there is a way in the company, what's called a poison pill, that they can prevent Elon Musk from buying it with this current stake that he has. And even with the poison pill, Elon Musk has got enough money to triple his offer. And when you do a takeover, you got to buy out all the shareholders. He's offering at 54 and change. He could triple that. He could go to 150 and still have billions left.
Damn.
So that's the sick part of being a billionaire. It's like J. Paul Getty once said, if you can count your money, you don't have $1 billion. And that's it's just amazing. And it's something that, to me, that's so far up in the atmosphere from me and things that affect me. It's like, I don't know. It's like asteroids colliding. It's like I can't do anything about it.
Well, we're gonna get into some things later on where we talk about the duality of Twitter and how, with the advent of the like button and the retweet, all of the things that have come to pass, and maybe he'll bring something new and interesting to the platform, but I doubt it. So, does everybody know who Ed Buck is? Wealthy political activist and donor. Apparently, he liked to shoot prostitutes up, male prostitutes up with meth, and apparently he killed a couple of them. So he'll be going away for quite a while. Oh yeah,
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fantastic to know.
So I thought I'd bring it back to Alabama for a minute. You remember last week they were talking about pushing the drug cartels in Alabama, and then of course Paul was talking about the 420 Bienville Square celebration.
Week.
And did you
4 more days?
Did you see this? So if we were in New Jersey and we were trying to recruit for the sheriff's department, the New Jersey Attorney General has determined that off-duty cops can use legal weed per marijuana legislation laws. So,
fantastic. Great job.
Good.
They won't have any trouble recruiting up there.
No.
So back down here, former deputy district attorney is serving jail time for a theft of over $300,000. So this is the Chambers County deputy district attorney Roland Sledge was sentenced to 12 months in county jail for stealing over $300,000 from 3 conservatorships for which he was responsible. So how about this? Guess whose money it was? The conservators.
Juveniles.
Yeah, little children. He was put in charge of their money. So I'd say 12 months in the county jail is light as hell, brother.
Well, I'm sure he's got to pay the restitution fund for that.
Yeah, and it's a lot more than Mr. Albritton, executive director of the Ethics Commission, and they're pilfering of the Mabel Amos Trust, and nothing has happened to any of those people yet.
Nor will it.
And the judge.
Nor will it. So,
Oh yeah, it will.
How about this,
I'll
Paul?
let that go.
Did you know? So there was a scandal out in California. It had to do with one of the husbands of the Real Housewives out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So anyway, the LA Times came in and did an audit. The California bar failed to stop corrupt lawyers, just like everywhere else. What a shocker.
Yep.
So how about some local outrage down here? Here's one that you didn't hear about, Range.
I did. Oh my God.
They
dude.
killed the damn donkey.
I read that story and I was just absolutely I was just floored from the story, the circumstance of the story. And it said, the animal was under control and the contractor still shot it anyway, and then had to shoot it twice. I'm going, what? Oh, it's like one of the most horrid things I've read in quite a while.
Well, I mean, did he shoot him with buckshot and just break all his legs?
No, he shot it with a pistol. And the first shot, I guess the thing turned its head and he shot it in the shoulder. And it was
my God.
spraying, and he was like, oh crap, and shot it in the head. And it said there were people there. This is what kills me. No pun intended. There were people there from the community. There were like a dozen people there from the community that knew how to handle the mule. That was like, hey, we all know how to handle these animals. Let us put a bridle on it and we'll walk it home or whatever. And the guy was like, nope, I've got to shoot it. And they were like, no, you don't. We can control it. Just let us get in there. And he wouldn't do it. It just reminds me of this. There's a story, one of those hook the top of your mouth stories I'll tell about being up in Starkville, Mississippi, and shooting a mule and end up going to jail. And you say, what? Why did you get arrested? I said, boy, you can't pedal ass up here. But anyway, when I read the story, it reminded me of one of my favorite Billy Martin stories. You guys remember Billy Martin, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Yankees manager. And he tells this story. It was a joke, of course, but he tells the story that he and Mickey Mantle and what's his name, Steinbrenner, got invited to go hunting, and Steinbrenner knew the guy whose land they were on, and he tells Steinbrenner he's going up to the house to see if they can hunt on the land, and Steinbrenner says, hey, we're here with Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle, and we're going to go hunt. And the owner says, hey, yeah, you know what, I got a mule back there that's it's lame and it can barely walk, and it's about 15 years old. Since y'all gonna be out there, would you just walk it over to this trench I dug and shoot it? Steinbrenner says, oh, okay, that's weird, but all right, I'll do it. He walks out there. All right, fellas, that son of a bitch, he told us we couldn't hunt on his land. That son of a bitch, I'm gonna shoot his fucking mule. And he says, Billy Martin's like, what are you? He tells a story on Carson, right? So it was hilarious. People just losing their minds. And he says, yeah, Billy's like, no, Joe, you can't do that. He goes, no, see, look, he's over by that hole over there. To hell with that mule. Boom, and he shoots, and the mule falls over into the hole. But behind him, they hear, boom, boom, boom. They all turn around. Billy says, what the hell? And Mickey Mantle says, don't worry, boss. I took down 3 of his cows, too. That son of a bitch.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
The worst thing I ever saw was this guy with photos of a safari that he was on. And it was in a big ballroom. There was a whole bunch of people in there, and everybody was drinking. So he started showing these pictures of, animals that he's killed. And, each slide he puts up there, you can hear people mumbling, and then you can hear the girls making snide remarks and everything. And I'm thinking, boy, I hope this is over with. And the next slide is a giraffe that he killed, and that did it. That the whole place was freaking nuts, man. You've never seen anything that looked so sad than that giraffe on the ground. I mean, my God, I wouldn't want my picture taken with that.
All right, I got a sad story for you.
Oh yeah, he can't go to Law Day.
Yep, Escambia County Law Day. Governor Siegelman has been uninvited. Now, someone who could probably help him is my opponent, who he appointed and was a political ally of. You guys are aware of that, right? Steve Marshall was was a Democrat and was appointed by a Democrat to his previous elected position.
What was he as a Democrat appointed by Siegelman?
He was appointed by Siegelman to fill a vacancy in a district attorney position in North Alabama. at where he stayed and ran unopposed 2 more times, and then after the first, well, I guess it was after Obama, he switched parties in 2012 and became the Trumpiest Trumper who ever trumped.
Mm-hmm.
So remember how we've been talking about the Pritchard Water Board and all their goings on?
Right.
Well, it turns out they had just applied for a bunch of money when the FBI raid went down. And this, of course, is coming from
$33 million.
Egg on her face, Mobile District Attorney Ashley Rich, who is not seeking re-election. Go figure. At least some people will have the decency to bow out, you know? Speaking of bowing out, Auburn University paid former pharmacy dean $350,000.
I saw that.
Days after he resigned. So the Plainsman still has some actual journalists on staff. Yeah. Imagine that. So everybody want to return to Brookside with me for a second?
Mm.
So the examiners of public accounts went in. He said the auditors cite chaotic evidence room and missing guns in Brookside. So it's a lot worse than we thought. You can't have that kind of volume without a good inventory control system, right? It ain't just about shaking people down and getting all the pennies out of their pockets. You have to, if we're going to take people's liberty and property, you have to follow certain procedures, which they obviously weren't doing in any way, shape, or form, especially with their evidence. So, you ever heard of this guy?
No.
He wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. It's the only thing I'd heard of.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm in the process of reading The Righteous Mind right now.
Okay. Well, so you know who Jonathan is. And so you know how when you find one of these Atlantic articles, there's the option down at the bottom to listen to the audio. It'll read it to you if you're reading impaired. Yeah. So guess how long this article takes to listen to?
How long?
16 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So while the past 10 years of American life have been uniquely stupid, it's not just a phase. And this is one of the more insightful articles I've ever read. It's really fantastic. And he's talking about the and so Paul thought that this would be an ill time for us to do a podcast because it's Easter weekend. It's not only Easter weekend, it's Passover and Ramadan, right, Raines?
That's correct.
So anyway, this story is all about the Tower of Babel and the some of the religious edicts that from the Bible, and the fact that the way God punished us for the Tower of Babel was to make us incoherent, where we could no longer understand one another because our civilization had become so advanced that we could basically do anything. And so this article goes on to talk about how Facebook and Twitter and some of these other things, Google Translate went live in 2011, and he's claiming that is the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel. And you should really check this article out. It's pretty damn good.
I don't know if I'd say that, because I'm going to tell you right now, Google Translate is not good, and I hope it evolves and the technology with it evolves. But Google Translate is not good.
Okay, well, I think the point is that there's way better stuff than Google Translate right now. But I guess what we're saying is the benchmark of language being a barrier has been overcome because everybody's got a computer. Everybody's got the Starship Enterprise computer in their pocket, and we don't have shit else from the series. No transporters, no phasers, no nothing. But we got the computer. Everybody's walking around with it in their pockets, and it's destroying civilization. So that's kind of the gist. And that gets back to what I'm saying. If you're a 48-year-old white guy in South Alabama and you have a Twitter feed, you don't see anything that some 19-year-old in Portland, Oregon sees. You might as well be on a completely different platform.
Well, that's the algorithmic nature of information these days.
Exactly. This is why you should go read this article. Well worth your time. So, Range, you were on, man. Let's. I think I've got a pretty decent new map for you. There we go. That is hot off the press from today.
So you will notice that the red regions are no longer north of Kiev. The Russian army has done a strategic retreat back into Russia and is concentrating on the eastern front. They are concentrating on the Donetsk region. And where you see there, I think we're pushing back into the initial strategic theory that I've envisioned, that they will push through Kharkiv to Dnipro and seek to destroy the country at the river. The sinking of the Moskva was significant. That was a huge propaganda win for the Ukrainian military. The meeting of foreign governments that are visiting the Ukraine right now is increasing. We are seeing increasing pressure from diplomatic efforts by the U.S. State Department to push for Sweden and Finland to go ahead and join NATO, to cancel out Putin's war goal of having more NATO members on his doorstep. And there's a lot happening. Russia still does not have this operation in the bag. That, like I said on last week's podcast, the butcher of Syria is there, and he is going to cut loose some pretty horrible things, and we're going to see some machinations moving. But I think the Russian army is kind of starting to run out of steam. The biggest thing I'll say to watch for is a great report came out from Reuters that the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian emergency services are holding currently more than 7,000 corpses of perished Russian army soldiers in their morgue facilities throughout the country. And they have no way to let the soldiers' families know they died in battle, or to let the Russian army know who these soldiers are. They have no way to identify them. And
7,000.
Hey, Reigns, hold on one second.
I don't know if that number's correct.
I had
particular to its hull following a fire and explosion of ammunition on board. Interestingly, this morning, state television hasn't really dwelt on the topic beyond citing that particular statement from the authorities. The statement from the authorities actually came too late to make it into the paper editions of the morning newspapers, but their online editions are starting now to include a little bit more in the way of commentary, and some of them are talking...
So, Reigns, does it matter how the ship was sunk?
For propaganda purposes, sure, it matters. But the fact of the matter is a major Russian warship was sunk. That happened. You can't unsink a ship. And it was done. I don't believe it was struck by a Neptune missile. I believe it was struck by many small rockets of indeterminate origin. And I believe it was a military operation from start to finish. And the Ukrainians damaged that ship enough to where it's no longer a part of the arsenal.
There you go.
So it's unreal they can hold on this long.
Well,
over 5 million people have evacuated the country.
Okay, so everybody's talking about escalation. The U.S. is sending an additional $800 million in military assistance. Do you know what that piece of machinery is right there? That's a howitzer.
That's a 155 is what that is.
That's right. Sending 14 of those and 40,000 rounds with it. You could have won the Civil War with one of those. Okay,
that's not even a brigade. That's like three platoons. That's it. 3 platoons worth of equipment, and that's 14 155s could lay waste to anything in the Ukraine. I think people underestimate the incredible power of artillery.
No, I don't. Man, that's a hell of a lot of firepower.
The thing that's got me is that there's 7. Well, this was like a week ago that they claimed they had destroyed 700 tanks. 700 Russian tanks.
All right, boys. 80.6 million infected in the U.S. with SARS-CoV-2 with 988,605 deaths. I got a feeling that we're going to top 1 million before May.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So, State Health Officer Dr. Scott Harris, just when he thought he had escaped, he tested positive for COVID-19 this week.
Yep.
So do y'all know who these guys are? Dr. Albert Boulra. So he is
he's the CEO of Pfizer.
Right. And in the midst of all this hard work he's doing, he still had time to write a novel called Moonshot, inside Pfizer's 9-month race to make the impossible possible.
Really,
so come
Harry?
on, Reigns, is this...
Really, Harry? You think CEOs write books?
No, I think it's more propaganda.
CEOs don't write books. CEOs calls down to the PR department, says, "Hey, I need a book
Right.
about our mission
Write a
statement.
book.
Here's a 12-page summary I've been writing on my toilet for the last 2 weeks. I need this done in 6 days."
That's exactly what I'm saying, dude. It is commercial propaganda. And I can't figure out why in the world they had him on
commercial
book TV.
propaganda, but it may be true. Is it true?
What do you mean?
Well, is it true? Is it a book? Is it fiction or what?
I couldn't tell you, and you wouldn't know either because you don't have the technical background to know what he's saying is true or not, Paul. It's just like that howitzer I just showed you.
Does he say it's true? That's what I'm saying.
He's saying that we did this impossible thing because we're so effing awesome. My company and me in charge of it. It's a me book.
We see a lot of those. Pardon me.
All right, Paul. It's time for the Rip Report.
Well, I had got a Rip Report as such with the Rip Report, but that'll be Monday Madness. I did cover the Lanyap. One of the articles in there is Under the Sea by Gabe Times, and it was searched for the historic submarine. And the historic submarine was the Pioneer 2. There were two of them, evidently. And they went looking for this thing, and this was Sean Holland, and she found the needle in the haystack, she thought, with this submarine, but it turned out to be an antique buoy, which some divers seem to have destroyed part of it the day before.
Yeah,
So
that was I saw that, and when I saw the picture and I saw the article when it first came out, I am not tooting my own horn because I'm not a marine archaeologist or anything, but having grown up on the Gulf Coast, when I saw the picture, I was like, that's not a buoy. That's an old 3-pile marker.
That's right.
Those are the old channel markers that they would use. They were 4-pylon. They were like ziggurat style little pyramids, and they had oil lamps on the top of them.
Smudge pots or whatever they call them.
Smudge pots. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that's a channel marker, man. We used to have those. We had one in the Seafood Museum. I said, those aren't buoys. That's a channel marker from like the late 1800s to the early 1900s. I said, that's what that is. That's not a submarine, you dolts. But, whatever. It's Alabama.
Also, Rob Holbert wrote on the Ultimate Alabama Gubernatorial Commercials, Damn the Torpedoes. And I don't know what you can say about the commercials that our governor are making. They're pretty embarrassing, to tell you the truth. And the way that she is flip-flopping on the Trump train is even more embarrassing, proving her to be a hypocrite. The one article I found in there, the feature article, New Opportunities Airport hopes to provide a leg up to businesses with international rebranding and capitalization in the Mobile airport, which is going to be Mobile International Airport. And one of the things that'll make a huge difference is that they found that over 55% of the people in that geographic area that would use the Mobile airport don't. They go to Pensacola or Destin or one of those destinations. It being in Mobile, maybe, it's going to make a big difference. One of the things that we'll do too is open up what I call the 2-hour flights, and that's Cancun, Belize, Canada, stuff like that. And those international flights, once they start flying out of there, we'll start seeing the rates.
Yeah, Paul,
come down.
you know what, man? You have just swallowed the hook so deep.
What?
This is a bunch of bull crap. They're moving an international airport. They're basically going to abandon that thing at the end of Airport Boulevard and build a new airport downtown at Brookley Field, spend millions of taxpayers' dollars on something that we don't need. Mobile has an airport.
Well, 420 people next week, Bentonville Square, everybody's going to celebrate. Like, no one wants to admit the scope of marijuana use, but it is beyond anyone's comprehension, I can assure you.
So after you do your 7 days in jail from 420, when you get out, you can go snapper fishing, because snapper season starts May 27th.
It starts when?
May 27th.
May 27th. It starts.
Yeah, snapper season comes in.
Oh, well, I was thinking about going on a fishing trip. I didn't realize it was that close. Of course, snapper is not my favorite.
Man, it's mine. I love them, and they're everywhere. They're like mosquitoes. You can't shoot. You can't see anything else because of all the red snapper when you go diving.
Grouper, barracuda, and cobia are my favorites.
So, everybody familiar with the Baldwin County Sewer Service package plant that they bought from the Basses? That was the basis of the straw man lawsuit, or part of it. The Alabama Department of Environmental Management has scheduled a public hearing for a proposal by a privately owned Baldwin County Sewer Service to expand the capacity of its Fort Morgan water treatment plant. It's drawn opposition from dozens of residents around Little Lagoon and Gulf Shores, which is subject to occasional algae and bacteria blooms as a result of excess nutrients. So, May 19th.
I hope they raise hell.
Well, I'm going to go. I'll be there. So does everybody, everybody's familiar with what's been going on in Mobile, the finger pointing, we talked about it last time. The court system, and the judges came out and said, oh no, it's a political blame game and over this surge in violence or whatever. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that bugs me. And it affects a lot of my domestic relations clients, and this week is a good example. In domestic relations cases, there are what I will call a class of attorney that part of their game plan is to weaponize the criminal justice system while our clients are involved in a domestic relations issue. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
PFAs, protection from abuse orders, domestic violence third. Do you know what you have to do to be convicted of domestic violence in the third degree? Simply harass someone with who you have a dating relationship. And you can't ever own a gun again. You see how this works?
Mm-hmm.
So then you do something, and there's a criminal case. Well, then what does the domestic relations judge do? Not let you see your children because your wife says you were ugly to her, or your husband, or vice versa. Anyway, it's something that we need to talk about as domestic relations attorneys, and especially these judges that pretty much handle it exclusively. I think I'm going to sit down and talk to the president of the Baldwin County Bar Association this week, and maybe not even our presiding judge, who is going to be hearing one of these cases on Monday. So maybe I'll have something to report back, but I can tell you, you have to be a low down, snake in the grass kind of lawyer to do something like this. And I've got three of them this week going on. Now think about that, Paul.
We have a lot of those low down snakes. We have a lot of them in a low down snaky court here.
So House passes amended legislation to make municipal courts share information. You remember that?
Right.
Hadn't heard another peep. Nobody's written another article about it. It's just, here's how it's going to be. We're going to give this money to AOC, and it's all going to go in the former lieutenant governor's pocket.
Just told us what to fill out.
So everybody keeping up with Mo Brooks. He lost the Trump endorsement, and Trump's coming down after the May 24th primary, but before the runoff, so everybody can pay Trump for his endorsement. Now this piece of excrement from, where's he from? Does anybody even know where he's really from? Is it Florida?
I'm not sure.
From Florida.
Okay, so he gets a now I don't know what a combat helicopter pilot knows about doing contractual work with the military to develop software systems for rockets and stuff like that, but he knows the guy handing out the contracts, which is how he became a millionaire and has now decided that he's going to follow the Tommy Tuberville playbook, if you'll pardon the pun, and buy himself a Senate seat in Alabama, which is exactly what's going on. Have you ever heard the guy speak? He ain't from Alabama. I can promise you that. And then you saw Governor Ivey's, and of course you talked about it in the Lanyard. What was it? The Damn the Torpedoes that Rob wrote this week about the governor's new ads that are just what we've come to expect from Alabama politics. Certainly don't address any issues. Don't address the fact that the Alabama Education Association seems to be at least 50% in charge again, because I can't for the life of me figure how a bunch of Republicans are touting the largest education budget ever when we spend more money than all of our neighboring states per student on education, right? And we're last. We're last. So it's not about throwing money at it. I don't know.
Too many people don't want to accept the fact that we are last.
Well, I mean, as someone who has to hire employees from time to time, I can tell you it shows.
Wait a minute, back up. You didn't read about Kay there. Kay Ivey claims 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, well that was in the Damn the Torpedoes.
Yeah.
So and I haven't heard anything else about this. The Bellator Property Owners Association, the $1 million swimming pool. Have you heard about any indictments, Mr. Rip?
No. Nobody.
$1 million fraud,
criminal charges, nothing.
$1 million fraud case. Hell, $5 million fraud case. Maybe 10. We don't even really know because the property was what was it? They paid $4.2 million for the property, but they really didn't. They only paid 2.4. And then
and then jacked it up 100%.
No. And
told him that was the whole amount.
And but then they went and borrowed like $9 million against the property. So then when they said it's not a fraud case, it's a petition case, and you only get X, a third of the pie, well, that was less than he put in to begin with.
Well, let's hope those people at Fort Morgan Road read all of these articles about Baldwin County Sewer.
Okay, so let me say something to you, Paul, and I want you to let this sink in for a minute. I'm going to say that the court system in Alabama is our greatest roadblock to economic development. So if I'm going to move my company here, and I get in an employment lawsuit, how many years is that thing going to hang out there? Hell, let's say I move here and I want to get divorced. How many years does it take to get divorced here? How long is my capital tied up?
You would think you'd know that, huh?
10 or 11
years. I mean, it's years and years. Go look at this straw man lawsuit. When did all that stuff go down? The $1 million swimming pool case. it takes years to get satisfaction.
And the reason for that is that they hope to kill it before it ever gets to court.
Yeah, you can.
One of the reasons.
You explain it your way, and I'll explain it mine. So we've got an election coming up. May 24th is the primaries. You see all of the people who are running unopposed unbelievably. And Mr. Rip, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about your project, the Murray Bubba Lawrence.
That's Deal with the Devil on Facebook, Deal with the Devil blog, or on the .com, deal-with-the-devil.com. And we have a petition on there now that has gone over 300 signatures. The petition is something that Facebook has increased a little bit, is that if you go on and you sign the petition and say that you want to donate to the boosting of the petition, then you can boost that petition directly without, say, myself or anybody at the page. So we're not handling any money or anything when people want to boost this page by themselves through the petition. But we're moving right along. We're still working on a federal writ of habeas corpus. We hope to have that done by May 12th. That's the deadline that we're shooting for. And once that rough draft is out there, then we're going to be calling on a lot of other people to look at it, read it, and see if we can get any input from others. But Mr. Lawrence has been in jail now for, well, he's getting close to 20 years now. And this was a case handled by the district attorney at the time, Mr. Whetstone, and Sheriff Hoss Mack. And it is absolutely a bizarre case. There was no investigation whatsoever. Anything that they found out, they were told. And the investigation that they claim to have made produced nothing. No DNA, no blood, no nothing. On top of that, a gun was allowed in as evidence that had no connection to the crime. The district attorney, Mr. Whetstone, promised the jury that he would prove that by the end of the trial that this murder was all about a drug conspiracy. He did not prove anything like that. The only thing that was proved was by the witnesses themselves, who said that they engaged in recreational drugs. So it's a pretty sad story. We're going to be on it for a while now. This next month, we will be trying to reach out to people like Kim Kardashian. And, of course, we're going to be working with the Innocence Project, too. But encourage our listeners to go to the Deal with the Devil site, read the petition, sign it, get on our blog site, and follow us, because we'll be doing podcasts on this and reports on it as we get further into the year.
So, Raines, we lost another good one this week.
Yep.
Yeah, man. That busted me up, man. I hated to hear Gilbert go. It's been a rough year for comedy.
Why should we pick Bob Saget, who raped and killed a girl in 1990? Well, first of all, it's not true. It's not true that Bob Saget raped and killed a girl in 1990. How do you make an ass hurt? The Olsen twins say, well, Bob Saget hands you a chocolate milk that he just made, and you wake up 3 hours later lying on your stomach. You have any proof that Bob Saget raped and killed a girl in 1990? Stop gossiping and go right to the police with it.
The water, meaning you might start spending time outdoors in our local rivers and bays. As WKRG News 5's Blake Brown explains, the risk of picking up bacteria may be the farthest thing from your mind when you're having fun in the water. So members of one organization are taking steps to keep you safe after all of the rain we've seen here lately.
Places like Bohemian Park start getting busy this time of year, and that's why Mobile Baykeeper is watching the water closely.
We're testing for bacteria that can make you sick, so we're finding out if those levels are high and high to a point where you might not want to swim, or if they're low and it's time to jump in the water.
Dangerous levels of bacteria are already showing up in Baldwin County waterways. A lot of problems surfacing after heavy rain.
Everything washes off from pet waste to septic and potential sewage spills, so that's when you really need to be on the lookout. It's a day or two after heavy rain. That's when those bacteria levels go highest.
Starting this month, the Environmental Watchdog Group is testing 13 sites across Mobile and Baldwin counties weekly, mainly popular swimming areas like rivers and creeks. The state tests 25 additional sites, mainly along Mobile Bay and closer to the Gulf of Mexico.
When we see sites that are repeatedly have high levels of bacteria, then we start looking into where's that coming from and how can we work to stop those sources, whether it's sewage spills, septic tanks, or something else entirely.
So far this week, only one area in Baldwin County near Weeks Bay was closed to swimming, but Mobile Baykeeper encourages you to download their app to monitor changes. In Baldwin County, I'm Blake Brown, WKRG News 5.
I hope they test by Fairhope Pier, because every time it rains, that thing goes through the roof there.
What do you want to bet the money? What's your money on, Rains?
Vibrios.
All right, I got a few more for you.
Still under consideration, including a measure that would outlaw the teaching of what's called divisive.
Now, of course, the legislative session is over, and there's 4 days left. This was last week, but it's the most instructive video I could find to show you what's important to our Alabama legislature. Okay.
Concepts in Alabama public schools. News 19 Chief Investigative Reporter Brian Lawson joins us now with more. Brian, it appears that a much talked about issue is going to have to wait again at least another year.
It does appear that way. It looks like, from what House Speaker Mac McCutcheon told News 19 today, there will be no gaming bill passed this session. That came in response to a question I asked about the lottery, so no lottery this year either. There did appear to be some momentum for a lottery bill and possibly casino gaming and sports betting during this session. A House committee passed a lottery bill and a Senate committee passed a full gaming bill, but House Speaker Mac McCutcheon says they're dead for this year. Now, the proposed lottery bill is projected to raise between $198 and $285 million annually. The measure called for money for scholarships and student debt relief, but the bill's sponsor, State Rep Chip Brown out of Mobile, said the legislature just ran out of time.
We ran out of time for him tonight. We'll get him on the air again soon. Apologies to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. Matt Damon, apologies. We ran out of time. Matt Damon, apologies. We ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. Matt Damon, I'm sorry we ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon. Ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon. He had a baby today, so it really was the wrong thing to do to bump him, but we had to. Apologies to Matt Damon. Ran out of time. Apologize to Matt Damon. Ran out of time. I want to apologize to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. We will reschedule him. Unfortunately, we are totally out of time.
I knew you were going to do it. Oh, big funny, big laugh.
Does that sound familiar to everybody?
Yeah.
Ran out of time. The gaming bill. It was all, they keep this in place so they can raise money.
22 years later.
This is crazy.
Still doing the same thing.
And why do we keep sending these same people to Montgomery?
I have no idea. But we keep sending them to Montgomery and our money to Florida.
Or Mississippi. Thank God for Mississippi.
Or, hey, Tennessee now.
All right, Rains.
Mississippi.
What's on your radar, man? What's the next thing we need to be keeping our eyes on?
Watch for the Red Army push to the river. There is rumblings of the possibility that President Putin will initialize and authorize the use of tactical nuclear weapons should his forces be threatened with massive destruction. As of now, the watchdogs around the world that keep an eye on nuclear weapons have not seen anything indicating that would happen. However, the Moskva did sink with nuclear weapons on board. So,
in a shallow water port, right? I mean, it's not like they're on the bottom of the Black Sea.
No, they sunk. The Black Sea is like Lake Martin. It's either 6 feet deep or it's 300 feet deep. So the Black Sea is actually extremely deep, and it sunk to levels that Bob Ballard is going to have to go down there and get them.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a ship.
And so something else I heard about this week was North Korea is fooling around with its rockets again. The Rocket Man's back at it. You hear anything about that?
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. Not even on my radar.
Well, talk about those howitzers. I think one of the things that a lot of people discount is that everybody in Seoul, South Korea would be dead in about 30 minutes with just by artillery, right? I mean, they're within range, artillery range of the demilitarized zone. So
that's always been the threat, is that if there's so many there were more artillery pieces on the north side of the DMZ than there were used in the entire Korean War, something like that, and that it would just unload and flatten North Seoul in just minutes. So that's their own mutually assured destruction policy over there.
Right. So how about you, Paul? What's going on in Fairhope?
I'm trying to wrap up a little bit of work on that Murray Lawrence case, Deal with the Devil, and next week I end a job I worked on for a month, which I hope to finance the rest of the year. So looking forward to get that behind me.
Well, I have a ton of court and a ton of campaign activity, so I'll be talking to y'all very sparingly. But anyway, snapper season's coming up. It's warm weather. The kayaks are calling my name.
Oh, yeah.
When you coming over, Raines?
I'll be there Monday morning, the 23rd.
Awesome. So, Paul?
Yeah.
What's on the RIP report this week? Give me a sneak peek.
I didn't write one yet. I'm going to write it on Monday.
And what are you going to write it on?
It's probably going to be a comparison of that, waterworks corruption versus a district attorney corruption versus Mr. Albright. And I just can't understand how, we can have such disparity. All they're doing is picking low-hanging fruit. But here you have somebody that's in charge of the Ethics Commission. It's obvious that the Attorney General is protecting the Ethics Commission, and the Ethics Commission is protecting the Attorney General.
So have y'all heard anything about prospective appointees for our vacant circuit clerk position that's coming up?
No.
You remember Stankowski asked for people who were interested to submit their names, and you do realize that is a position that does not require a law degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, more important than handling all the paperwork for the court system, or is just as importantly, they are the absentee ballot managers during our elections.
Right.
And if you want a passport, you have to go to the circuit clerk. That is where you go get your passport here in Baldwin County. So it's an important position, and we certainly need somebody competent, and we don't need, any former politicians' wives. You can imagine what names run through my mind when I say that, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's going to get
that.
stoked up here the next couple of weeks, too, us getting closer to this election.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Y'all have a good weekend.
Okay. Take care.
County Sheriff's Office has been working for months to get money to add a SWAT vehicle to its law enforcement arsenal. Sheriff Huey Haas-Mack first proposed this purchase to the Baldwin County Commission, which turned him down.
And now he says he's looking to other avenues for funding and hopes to get the vehicle soon. Here's our Corey Pippin. He's been working to find out where the sheriff plans to get that money.
Gotten in the Johnson administration, Sheriff.
Sheriff Huey Haas-Mack says in the 6 years he's been the sheriff of Baldwin County, he's seen the need for a new SWAT vehicle firsthand.
We had a situation several years ago. We had a gentleman that had his wife hostage. The situation, we knew that he had a firearm. In that particular case, had we had this vehicle, the vehicle could have drove right up to literally to the door of the residence, offering them the maximum amount of cover, the maximum amount of protection.
Now he's not stopping until his deputies get one. Mack says he initially proposed the plan to the Baldwin County Commissioners, who turned it down, claiming the amount of money needed would conflict with the need for county employee pay raises. The sheriff says he's looking towards federal grants and forfeiture money to possibly foot $100,000 to $300,000 bill. He says he's also speaking to companies BAT and Linco to possibly get a reduced price on one of their SWAT vehicle models.
We believe that if we're going to purchase a vehicle, with everything being considered at this time, this is something that's a great need for our county. We're a county now that's approaching 200,000 people, and it's just a need that we think is present that we need to fill.
The new SWAT vehicle would replace the county's old one, which was only an ambulance converted to fit the needs of the deputies. Sheriff Mack is also asking for funding from the county commission to purchase 12 new deputy vehicles. That number actually went down from 19 after the commissioners expressed concerns over the request. Mack says the county's growth is one of the reasons the need has increased.
When we first got the SWAT vehicle, wasn't so much talked about school hostage situations and all. It's a different environment that we live in. So the best thing that we can do as law enforcement, we pray that nothing like that ever happens in our county, but we better be prepared.
Reporting from Baldwin County, Corey Pippen, Fox 10 News.
Mack says that new SWAT vehicle will be able to carry the entire 14-member SWAT team. That's double the number the current one can hold. He says the office hopes to have the vehicle by the end of this year.